Now let's ask the question, do ethics and college mix? We talk about different things. Two issues are regular on the agenda for faculty to talk about. One is plagiarizing, also cheating. Okay, in the world of online teaching, one of the big issues we have is a student accessing the internet to find answers? It's a big issue. Plagiarizing. Let me use this as an example. 36% of undergraduates, they admit to taking information from online sources without citations. Let me tell you, there's two levels of foolishness here. Number one, you're compromising your integrity. Maybe you don't feel you have any. I frankly think you should have some, and you should have some sense of character on the inside when you do those type of things, to have that word on the inside saying, you ought not to be doing that. That's called integrity. At least when you respond to it, it's called integrity. Okay, but the other part is, as a college professor, I'm going to be straight up with you. When I have a student sit down there and put a citation right in the middle of the paper, and they say, the Wall Street Journal said, da, 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 on this date, I like it. All of a sudden, that student, they're elevated above other students because of the fact they're citing things on the inside. And I know they're out there doing good, solid research, and their opinion is going to be a more intelligent opinion because they are the informed opinion in the entire process. So here's a bunch of statistics about plagiarism, but here is, at the end of the day, we are responsible for our own ethics. We will be accountable nonstop for what we do in the world of ethics to ourselves, especially, more than anybody else. You can't pass it up as, well, somebody else made me do that. Okay, when you turn your back on somebody in need, is that an ethical issue for you? Or do you want to just pass it off like you didn't do anything wrong? Okay, you get to own it. When you have ethics, you get to own it when you don't, even when you don't want to. In an organization, we have a tendency to model our behaviors of our leadership. If your leaders are unethical, eventually it's going to wear off on you and you'll be just like them, and you won't have anybody to blame except for, well, they made me do it. No, they didn't. You did it because you made a choice. In our lives, we model what we choose to follow. So make certain the heroes you have in your life have ethics. Here's an issue that you're going to be confronted with in days to come. I have several of them coming up. 30% of employees observed misconduct in the past 12 months. What are you going to do if you see somebody acting inappropriate? Okay, are you going to turn them in? Are you going to turn a blind eye? If you see it, what will you do? Unfortunately, doing nothing is too often the norm. What happens at a company if you do nothing? Is it going to hurt the company? It depends how often it happens. It depends what impact it has. Maybe they'll lose money and maybe you lose your job. What happens to you? What happens to the company if you do something? What happens to you? If you report them, is it possible that that person retaliates and you get in trouble over the whole aspect of it? That's a serious dialogue you need to have on the inside. What happens to the company if you do nothing? These are issues you need to sit down and start talking about now, because eventually, somewhere in your career pathway, you will see somebody doing something dishonest in the process. Have the dialogue now to start setting your views and your perspectives on it. So here's a whole series of things from Michigan State University, 5 common ethical issues in the workplace. From an article, unethical leadership, having a personal issue with your boss is one thing, but reporting to a person who's behaving unethically is another. There are bosses out there that are really bad role models. Sometimes there's toxic workplace cultures. I saw one once, and we had a toxic president, and the toxic president hired a series of toxic workers underneath him. Oh my gosh, that could really sit down and have impacts, because the president, they'll get rid of them eventually. But that being said, all of a sudden you're left with a whole series of people underneath them as they come down the process that are toxic for years and years to come, and the whole workplace becomes toxic. I had a friend of mine who wanted to be a college president more than anything. And he sat there and he applied to a place and he called, David, I applied over here. I said, no, don't do that. He says, why? I says, I was on the accreditation team. They've had 5 vice presidents in 3 years. He says, yeah, but that won't be me. And so he got the job. The worst thing could have happened to him. He became a college president. A year and a half later, he was unemployed. It was a toxic culture from the top on down, and even in that position of a college president, he couldn't change it. It sat there and it got him as well. discrimination and harassment. Everybody should be able to come to work and not be harassed in the workplace. This is a big issue, so you want to look on that aspect of it. Sometimes you'll have goals, unrealistic, and sometimes they're conflicting goals. You may have an organizational goal here and your boss's goal may be different. Maybe your goals are different. So unrealistic goals are really difficult sometimes. Questionable use of company technology. 64% visit non-work related websites during the workday. I'll bet none of you ever do Amazon at work. Oh, yes, that kind of strikes home, doesn't it? A lot of people pull out their phone and they just, and 90 seconds later, they're back at work and think nobody saw anything. Shoot, everybody sees that and everything else in the process. So that's questionable. So let me ask you the question. Got ethics?